Millionaire returns to ex-wife after 5 years. One touching gesture revealed an incredible truth. Jake Reynolds stood on the bustling streets of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the twinkling city lights seeming colder than he remembered. After 5 years chasing big deals and bigger dreams, he was back in his hometown. But the success felt hollow against the backdrop of memories, particularly the haunting echo of Emily's laughter. They were once young dreamers, in love and filled with hope. Now he was a self-made millionaire with wealth spilling over, yet cursed with loneliness. He entered the diner, the smells of breakfast and coffee swirling around him like an old familiar song. Emily had inherited this once vibrant spot from her family. It was more than just a diner. It was a piece of history, a cozy heart of the community. But now, it stood worn down, a shadow of its former self, clinging to survival as the economy faltered. Jake's heart ached seeing how her light dimmed along with it. As he approached the counter, he caught a glimpse of Emily, her hair pulled back in a loose bun, eyes focused, and hands working tirelessly. The warmth of her presence reversed the icy grip of his loneliness. But he hesitated, overwhelmed by a rush of regrets. Everything he'd built felt meaningless without her. "I'm here to help," he finally managed, the words tumbling out before he could second-guess himself. The air shifted instantly. She looked up, her hazel eyes narrowing. "I don't need your money, Jake." Her voice was firm, tinged with a pride he once cherished. He flinched at the rejection, feeling the sting of both love and anger. "It's not just about money. It's about what? Guilt? I don't want your handouts. We built our dreams together. Remember?" Their past flickered between them, that shared laughter, those tender moments, now tinged with bitterness. He wanted to say more but found himself speechless. Days turned into weeks. The seasons shifted from the crisp, biting autumn to winter's chill. Tension simmered as the town faced a devastating tornado that tore through Cedar Rapids, leaving a path of destruction behind it. Emily's diner became a refuge for those displaced. Flowers of community spirit bloomed amidst the rubble. But Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing him. More than money, they needed hope that in the eye of the storm. A thought sparked. "Let us rebuild together," he suggested, looking into Emily's eyes, hoping to shake her resolve. They could organize together to revitalize the diner and mend the community. The flicker of something more alive in her eyes spurred him on. As they worked, side by side, emotions swirled: laughter, pain, lingering desire. Each shared glance resonated like music, each touch igniting their dormant feelings. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they united the community, sweat on their brows, tensions of the past still loomed large. Jake could feel his heart racing every time their hands grazed. Was this a second chance? Or was he still just a ghost of the man who had let her down? With their hope rebuilding a stronger diner, they were unsure if they were meant to be mere friends, or if love could spark back to life amidst the chaos. Jake inhaled the scent of gasoline mixed with charred wood from the rebuild, his heart pounding as he looked over at Emily. Could he ever truly earn her forgiveness? Could he once again share a future with the woman he never stopped loving? As they stared at the diner, a shared life seemed close, yet still ethereally out of reach, leaving them at the precipice of decisions that could alter everything. The sound of hammers echoed through the diner as Jake and Emily worked tirelessly, piecing together what the tornado had torn apart. Every swing of his hammer brought back memories of lazy afternoons spent dreaming about their future. And yet, each thud reminded him of the years apart, the choices made that had led them here. "Can you hand me that board?" Emily's voice broke through his reverie. He turned to her, the sunlight cutting through the broken windows illuminating her determined expression. There was something fierce and beautiful about the way she breathed life into this place, even amidst the wreckage. It made his heart swell with admiration. "Sure," he replied, forcing a smile as he grabbed the wood from the ground. A flicker of warmth passed between them when their fingers brushed. It was only a brief moment, but it felt electric, a reminder of what they once shared. "I think we should paint the walls a brighter color," Emily suggested, her tone casual but laced with an underlying hope. "Something inviting, like the old days, the old days." The memories flooded back, every whispered longing in a sunlit afternoon, the promise of forever in her eyes. "I'd like that," he said softly, his voice almost drowned out by the bustle outside. As the day wore on, they settled into a rhythm, working hard but sneaking glances at each other filled with unspoken words. The walls started to transform, colors splashing against the worn wood, breathing life back into what had been shattered. Later, as they took a break, sitting together on a near-empty bench outside the diner, their shoulders almost touching, Jake felt the weight of his emotions spilling over. "I never should have left," he murmured, staring at the colors of the diner. Emily inhaled deeply. "The past is the past, Jake. We can't change it, but we can choose what to do moving forward. What if I want a future with you? Can we even?" She cut him off, shaking her head with a sad smile. "You don't know what I've been through alone, Jake. I rebuilt this place without you. I don't need someone to swoop in and save me now." He felt a knot forming in his chest. "I'm not trying to save you. I care. And I am sorry." Meeting her gaze, he hoped to convey all the regret, all the love that had built within him over the years. "Sorry isn't enough," Emily whispered, turning her eyes away. "You left and it hurt. It still hurts." The silence that followed felt heavy, laden with the weight of years that stretched between them. Jake's heart raced. Where they were heading felt both exhilarating and terrifying. "It's not too late, Em. You know that, right?" At that moment, the distant sound of laughter brought their attention to a group of children playing in what was left of the park nearby. Jake sighed, momentarily lost in their joy. Perhaps the two of them could find joy again, even if they were circling old wounds. "I don't know if we can just pick up where we left off. Too much has happened," she said, an uncertainty slipping into her voice. "Then let us create something new together," he suggested, an ember of hope igniting within him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with soft hues of orange and purple, Jake felt a pang of urgency. He needed to know where they stood. "Emily, can we try?" She turned to him, her expression unreadable, a mix of fear and tentative hope. "I don't know," she replied, her voice shaking. Jake leaned in, his heart pounding as he reached for her hand, ready to pull her back into the warmth of their bond. But as their fingers met, her phone buzzed, shattering the moment. Emily pulled away, a flicker of frustration crossing her face as she glanced at her screen. "It's the town meeting. I have to go." Jake's heart sank. "Can we talk later?" Her gaze lingered on his before she turned to leave, an uncertain smile lingering on her lips. "Maybe I'll think about it." He watched her walk away, an ache settling in his chest as the last light of day faded. Could they really mend what was broken? Standing alone in the lingering twilight, he wondered if tomorrow would bring them a step closer to healing, or if the weight of their past would keep them apart. What would come of their fragile hope? The following morning, the sun broke through the clouds, casting warm golden rays across the remnants of the diner. Jake stood outside, coffee in hand, feeling the crisp air wrap around him. He watched as Emily pulled into the parking lot, her old truck rattling but still running strong. The sight sparked a mix of nostalgia and anxiety in him. As she stepped out, hair tousled by the wind, it struck him how much he missed just being around her. He took a sip of his coffee, bracing himself for whatever today might bring. Would they talk? Would she open up about her hurt? "Good morning," Emily called, her voice light, yet he could sense the tension beneath it. "Hey, ready for round 2? He asked, trying to sound upbeat, but his heart was thudding against his chest. "More like round 15. But yeah, let us get to it." she replied with an easy smile, yet her eyes had a hint of uncertainty. They started painting again, the air filled with the smell of fresh paint and hope. The color he had chosen, a soft, inviting yellow, began to brighten the walls, and as they worked side by side, their movements became more synchronized. With every stroke, the diner transformed, and so did their connection. "Do you remember the first time we painted this place?" Emily asked, breaking the comfortable silence as she dipped her brush into the paint. Jake chuckled, trying to recall. "You were so mad at me for spilling paint all over the floor. I thought you were going to kill me." "You were lucky I loved you," she replied, laughter softening her features. There it was, the flicker of warmth he had been hoping for. "Still love you," he said before he could hold back the words. Emily's eyes widened slightly. She paused before placing her brush down. "Jake, I know, don't get your hopes up, right?" he interrupted, not wanting to put pressure on them. "But it's true. I realize that now." They stood in silence, the only sounds the distant laughter of children at the park and the rhythmic brushing of paint against wood. "Sometimes it feels easier to shut someone out than to risk getting hurt again," Emily finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Safer, you know? Safer? Maybe. But at what cost?" He stepped closer, his voice steady. "I choose the risk. I choose you." Her gaze searched his. There was fear, but there was something else, curiosity. They were standing at the edge of something bigger. Just then, a group of townsfolk gathered outside the diner, curiosity painted on their faces as they watched the revival unfold. "It looks beautiful," one woman called out, admiration in her tone. Emily smiled. Their fleeting moment shared. The laughter of their friends warmed the air around them. But reality crept back in. The fear of pain, the resentment lingering beneath the surface. It could never truly be removed. Could it? "Thanks, everyone," Emily shouted, waving. The brief distraction enforced a sense of normalcy. Yet as the crowd dispersed, Jake felt the weight of what needed to be addressed. "Let us finish painting," Emily said, breaking the moment's tension. But Jake's heart pounded in his chest. After this, he dared, we should really talk. No more distractions. No more avoidance. Her smile faltered, but her eyes remained locked on his. "Okay, I'm willing to listen, but don't think I'm easy to convince." "Good," Jake replied, a glimmer of hope rising within him. It wouldn't be worth it otherwise. But as they resumed painting, a shadow passed across Emily's face. He could see the walls getting brighter, but could they truly build something new? Could they rise from the ashes of their past? As they finished the last brushstroke, the sunlight flooded the room, illuminating the colors that had come to life on the walls. Jake turned to Emily, ready to forge ahead, and as their gazes met, he couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was pivotal. But before he could speak, the sound of a siren blared in the distance, growing louder and echoing through the quiet town. They both turned toward the sound, hearts racing, a new fear settling in. What did that siren mean? Jake's heart skipped a beat as the siren shrieked closer, a harsh reminder that their moment of clarity might soon be shattered. He and Emily exchanged worried looks, the laughter from the crowd fading into an apprehensive silence. Just like that, the vibrant colors on the diner's walls felt like a fragile illusion against the looming reality of whatever was happening just outside. "Maybe it's just a routine call," Emily said, but even she didn't sound convinced. Her brows furrowed, a storm brewing in her gaze. "Yeah, maybe." Jake tried to sound hopeful, but the siren's persistent wail sent unease rolling through him. "You want to check it out?" She bit her lip, a habit she had when anxious. "I guess we should. What if something's wrong?" Jake nodded, feeling the tension in the air thicken as they stepped outside. The sun, once beautifully bright, now seemed almost foreboding as the siren's echo rumbled through the street. The scene before them unfolded in a chaotic blur. A fire truck and an ambulance filled the parking lot, their flashing lights casting a frantic glow. Townsfolk paused, uncertainty etched on their faces, murmurs of concern spilling from their lips. Jake's stomach twisted as he scanned the scene. The hospital, built just a few blocks away, had surely been called into action. "Stay close," he said to Emily, though a part of him wanted to shield her from whatever heart-wrenching sight awaited. They approached a group of people huddled nearby, their expressions a mix of fear and confusion. Jake overheard bits of conversation, snippets crashing together in his mind. Accident at the corner, didn't he see the car, and not formed in his throat. What if it's someone we know? He whispered, glancing at Emily, whose face had turned pale. Suddenly, two paramedics emerged from the ambulance, wheeling a stretcher toward the building, covered in a white blanket. The sight felt surreal. The world slowed around him. Is it? Emily's voice trailed off, holding back the tremble that threatened to break free. Jake's breath quickened. I don't know. The uncertainty gnawed at him. He felt her grip tighten around his arm, her presence grounding him as reality hung heavy between them as they moved closer. The blanket shifted slightly, revealing a flash of familiar clothes. A sinking feeling wedged deep in Jake's chest. That jacket, he recognized it. The realizing hit like a punch to the gut. Oh no, it can't be. Emily breathed. Wait, Jake called, pushing through the crowd, anxiety surging. They reached the front just as the paramedics positioned themselves, and a woman was moved from the stretcher to the gurney. Emily gasped, is that? Recognition flooded Jake's senses. It was Mrs. Jacobs, the kind woman who had run the bakery down the street for years. The thought of her missing her morning shift due to a mishap shattered Jake's heart. Suddenly, a voice cut through the buzzing hysteria. Someone call her husband. Chaos erupted again, and panic set in as people scrambled. Jake met Emily's eyes, searching for stability in the storm. We need to do something, he said, urgency rising in his tone. But what if it's too late? She replied, fear seeping in. What if we can't help? Jake's chest felt tight. We can't just stand here. He turned, ready to act, to reach out in any way he could. Emily hesitated, then nodded, resolute, a flicker of defiance igniting in her. They had both buried their feelings for so long, but maybe, just maybe, it was time to dig deep, to rise and take action, to choose connection over fear. Then the paramedics began to load Mrs. Jacobs into the ambulance, the door swinging shut, sealing away their last chance to make a difference. Jake clenched his fists, adrenaline coursing through him. Amidst the confusion, he managed to catch a glimpse of the pain on Emily's face. Let us go, he urged. We'll visit the hospital. We can't let this define our town or us. As they turned to leave, a figure approached in a panic, running toward the scene, a man with familiar features, the eyes of a fighter filled with love and desperation. Ethan, Jake exclaimed, the realization crashing over him. This was going to change everything. But would the chaos push them further apart or bring them closer together than ever before? Jake's heart raced as he recognized Ethan, the husband of Mrs. Jacobs. He rushed forward, feeling the weight of duty pressing down on him. He had to be there for Ethan, to be a source of strength when everything else seemed so fragile. Ethan, Jake called again, forcing the words past his tightened throat. The man's panic-stricken face snapped in their direction, eyes wild, searching. When their gazes locked, Jake felt a flash of unspoken understanding. This was a family in crisis, and they had to do something. Ethan barreled through the crowd, his breaths coming in sharp bursts. What happened? His voice was strained, laced with vulnerability that tugged at Jake's heart. We don't know, Emily chimed in, her hand fluttering beside her like a leaf caught in the wind. Just that there was an accident. Ethan inhaled sharply, steeling himself under the weight of their words. I should have been there. I was late. His voice cracked, the fear spilling over. A few minutes, that's all it would have taken. Emily instinctively stepped closer to him. Ethan, you can't blame yourself. We need to get to the hospital, right? Yes, the hospital. He looked at Jake, eyebrows knitted in controlled panic. You're really going to help? Just come with me? Absolutely, Jake responded, a surge of determination eclipsing his earlier uncertainty. They moved together, forging a path through the scattered townsfolk who still gathered, whispering among themselves as they reached Ethan's car. Jake glanced back at Emily, who gave him a nod. They were in this together, riding the storm as one. It didn't matter if their emotions had been tangled and raw before. This was a moment that called for them to unite, to confront their fears. Ethan drove fast, the engine roaring as they flew through the streets. The hospital loomed closer, a beacon of hope but also of dread. Jake couldn't shake the image of Mrs. Jacobs in the ambulance from his mind. The woman whose cinnamon rolls had filled their mornings with joy now lay in critical condition. "Ethan, do you have anyone there? Family?" Jake asked, the need for support palpable. He could see Ethan's jaw clenching, the man forming a hard shield against his emotions. "My sister. She should be waiting in the ER," Ethan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if it's too late?" Jake felt a desperate urge to reassure him. "We're doing everything we can. Just hang on." The hospital lights glared brightly, reflecting off glass doors as they dashed inside. The sterile smell of disinfectant hit them like a wall. In the waiting area, people wandered, faces drawn and shadows heavy under their eyes. Ethan's sister was there, pacing the floor, anxiety painted across her features. When Ethan called her name, she turned sharply, relief flooding her eyes before they settled into despair. "Ethan, I thought you were working late," she began but faltered as she took in the situation. The three of them panting, his sister questioning. "What happened?" With shaky breaths, Ethan explained. Jake stood back a little, letting the siblings have their moment. Yet, he felt an unquenchable fire growing within him. As Ethan spoke softly to his sister, he realized this wasn't just about a woman who had fallen behind the wheel. It was about healing, family, and the deep-seated connections that had long been left unattended. Behind the facade of chaos, Jake was confronted with choices to step up and bridge the gaps between the unspoken feelings he had buried or retreat into the familiarity of silence. He didn't want to let fear dictate their fate anymore. Just then, a doctor emerged from the hallway, his expression grim. Silence fell over the waiting room, a breath held collectively by every soul within. "Mrs. Jacobs," the doctor began, and Jake's heart plummeted. He couldn't bear the uncertainty of what would come next. But when he heard Ethan's voice, it resonated with a determination Jake hadn't anticipated. "Tell us, please." The words hung in the air, heavy with dread. What was coming would change everything for better or worse. Would they find the strength to face the truth together, or was this just the beginning of a deeper unraveling? The doctor stepped forward, his brow knitted with concern. "Mrs. Jacobs sustained significant injuries in the accident. She is stable now but remains unconscious. We'll have to monitor her closely." Ethan's face went blank. Jake could see the tremor in his hands as he gripped his sister's shoulder for support. "What do you mean stable?" Ethan's voice wavered, confusion and fear battling for dominance. "Can we see her? Please, there are protocols we must follow." The doctor's voice was steady yet firm, a reminder of the boundaries that existed between hope and reality. "You can wait in the designated area. I'll keep you updated." Moments felt like hours in the sterile waiting area. They hovered in a painful limbo, exchanging worried glances, thoughts racing through each of them. Emily's fingers drummed softly against the plastic chair, her mind no doubt weaving through the memories of Mrs. Jacobs, the laughter, the warmth, the omnipresent scent of cinnamon wafting from her kitchen. Jake tried to breathe through the tension, his heart pounding as he reached for Ethan, who sat rigid as a statue. "Ethan, talk to me. What's going through your mind?" Ethan finally broke, tears spilling onto his cheeks. "She's always been there for me. Always the one who listened. What if I never get to tell her how much I love her?" His voice cracked, each word punctuated with anguish that echoed around them. "Then tell her when she wakes up," Jake urged, hoping to light a spark of determination in Ethan's dimming spirit. "You'll have that chance. You have to believe that." But deep down, Jake knew the weight of the unknown could crush even the strongest resolve. He looked at Emily, who had moved closer to Ethan, her hand enveloping his. There was a quiet power in the way they held on to one another, a reminder that they weren't alone in this turbulent moment. Hours crawled by, and each ping from the nurse's station sent jolts of anxiety through their group. The waiting room was alive with hushed whispers and the occasional sound of tears. Jake found himself wondering about the fragility of life and how swiftly things could change. Through the chaos, he thought of the unresolved feelings he had suppressed, both for his own family and for Emily, whose presence brought both comfort and confusion. "Hey, let us get some coffee," Emily suggested gently, breaking through the lingering silence. "We can't just sit here." Ethan shook his head but found himself nodding reluctantly. "Okay." The weariness in his voice was palpable. As they made their way to the hospital cafe, Jake took a chance. "Emily, can I talk to you for a second?" "Sure," she replied, her eyebrows raised in curiosity. "About us. About everything that happened." Before he found the words slipping away again. The weight of the moment smothered him, but he pressed on, desperate to create space for clarity in the chaos. "I know this is a lot right now, but we need to be honest with each other if we're going to help Ethan the way he needs," she replied softly, yet Jake spotted a flicker of hesitation in her eyes. Just then, a burst of commotion drew their attention. The doctor approached, looking more resolute. "Ethan," he called out, "we need you back in the room, now." Ethan sprang to his feet, urgency flooding his veins. "What is it? Is it about?" But the doctor was already moving swiftly away, expecting Ethan to follow. Jake exchanged a look with Emily, both of them sensing a shift in the atmosphere. "What's this about?" Emily asked, alarm edging her voice. As they chased after Ethan, Jake realized that soon, deeper truths would have to surface amidst the turmoil. It was time for revelations masked by silence to finally break free. What awaited them in that room? Would it bring clarity, or would the next moments shatter everything? Ethan rushed into the room, his heart racing as he caught sight of his mother lying there, so still and fragile. The sterile smell of the hospital mixed with a heaviness in his chest. He wanted to scream, to shake her awake, but all he could do was breathe. The doctor followed closely behind, his expression unreadable. "Ethan, I need you to stay calm," he said, his tone trying to soothe the chaos swirling around them. "We've made some adjustments to her care. Your presence might help her stabilize further." Ethan stepped closer, gently taking his mother's hand. Felt cold against his skin. "Mom, please," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You need to wake up. I need you." Tears streamed down his face as he held her hand tightly, wishing for her warmth to return, for her laughter to fill the room once more. Emily and Jake hovered by the doorway, exchanging looks of concern. They could feel Ethan's desperation radiate throughout the room, but they weren't sure how to help. Emily's heart ached for him. She wanted to reach out, but she also understood the heaviness of this moment. "What if she doesn't wake up?" Jake murmured, almost to himself. "She will," Emily replied firmly, though uncertainty lingered in the back of her mind. "She has to." Ethan looked back, his eyes red and swelling. "I can't lose her, not now. Not when there's so much left unsaid." The doctor stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Ethan, there are options we can explore. We're doing everything we can. But it's crucial that you stay positive, and your energy is vital to her recovery." Jake felt a pang of discomfort. Would hope alone be enough? He wanted to believe it could, but doubt crept in. He glanced at Emily, and the connection between them felt electric, though both were consumed by the unfolding situation. There was the tension of unspoken words still hanging between them. But this wasn't the time. Suddenly, a faint sound broke through the quiet, a soft groan from Mrs. Jacobs. Everyone held their breath, their hearts leaping in hope. Ethan's grip tightened around her hand. "Mom, can you hear me?" The doctor leaned closer, assessing her condition. "That's a good sign. Keep talking to her," he encouraged. Ethan's voice trembled as he recalled memories. "Remember our picnic at the lake? You made that awful potato salad, but we laughed," and his voice broke. But he pushed through. "I need you to come back to me, Mom. We have so much to do together. We need to go to the farmer's market again, and I want to hear you argue with Mr. Williams over the best tomatoes." Tears flowed freely down Ethan's face as he remembered her laugh, the warmth of her hugs, how she put band-aids on his scraped knees. He felt an overwhelming sense of urgency, not just to speak, but to confess everything. Emily moved closer, her spirit ignited by Ethan's desperation. "You're not alone, Ethan," she whispered, her eyes locked onto him. She felt the surge of all their unspoken words, pushing against the walls that had confined their emotions for too long. "In case you didn't know, we're all here for you," she added softly, squeezing Jake's hand to share the weight of her support. As they stood in that dim room, it struck Jake that everyone, especially Ethan, needed each other more than ever. They would either shatter or rise together, the uncertainty hanging around them like a dark cloud, ripe for release. Suddenly, in a surprising turn, Mrs. Jacobs stirred again. Her eyelids fluttered open slightly, and just for a moment, she looked at Ethan. The recognition in her eyes sparked something deep within them all. "Yes, there's hope," Jake breathed as adrenaline surged through him, igniting hope. "Mom?" Ethan's voice was trembling, a mixture of panic and relief. "Stay with me, please." Everything the three of them had held on to was in that moment, suspended between love and fear. But as Ethan's mother began to stabilize, a haunting thought lingered in Jake's mind. What if she remembered things better left unsaid? As her gaze drifted, he wondered, what truths would unravel now, and would they hurt or heal them all? Ethan stared, his heart pounding louder with each passing second. The world around him faded as he tried to decipher the look in his mother's eyes. Slowly, she blinked, the faintest smile gracing her lips. It was like a spark igniting a long-dormant flame. "Ethan?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Yes. Yes, Mom. It's me," he exclaimed, barely able to contain the flood of emotions crashing over him. As the doctor moved closer to examine her vitals, he nodded, a mix of relief and cautious optimism spreading across his face. Emily and Jake watched, anchored by the powerful current that was drawing them into a moment that felt sacred. Each breath felt heavy with hope. "Mom," Ethan said, his voice shaking as he leaned closer, "I've missed you so much." "We all have." Tears spilled from her eyes, tracing paths down her cheeks. I thought I lost you all." "We're right here," Jake interjected softly, stepping closer. "We won't go anywhere." Emily stood a couple of steps back, feeling the weight of their shared history. There was so much she wanted to say, but this wasn't her moment. It was theirs. Instead, she offered a small smile. Mrs. Jacobs took a deep breath, her gaze shifting between her son and his friends. "Promise me you'll take care of each other. I was so lost." Ethan nodded, choking back a sob. "Promise, Mom. We'll take care of each other." In that fractured but fragile moment, it felt as if a collective pact had formed among them, a thread binding their hearts, reinforcing their intentions to protect this newfound light. "Mom, can I tell you something?" Ethan hesitated, his depth of feeling pressing against the walls he had built around his own fears. He leaned in closer, as if afraid of the words escaping into a black hole. "I feel like I didn't do enough to tell you how much you mean to me. All those times I thought we had forever, I was wrong." Her face softened, her eyes pooling with understanding. "What matters is right now. We have this moment." Jake, usually the one to keep it together, felt the walls of his own composure falter. "You fought for us, for a family, Mom. Just like we'll fight for you now," he said, his voice steady but breaking at the edges, the weight of emotion clearly almost too much to bear. Lost in the exchange of emotions, the reality of the moment surged through them. There was a bittersweet gentleness to their words from the vulnerable depths of what could have been lost. They were grappling with the fragility of hope, not yet realizing that the real fight for healing was just beginning. Mrs. Jacobs closed her eyes, losing herself in the warmth of her son and his friends. With each heartbeat, they felt the tension of unspoken words linger in the room, shadows of past regrets creeping in. What had she hidden from them? What truths lay in the silence that now echoed back? As if sensing her own thoughts disturbing the air, Mrs. Jacobs stirred slightly. Her brow furrowed, something flickered within her that made Ethan lean in again. "Mom, tell me what you need to say." "I'm listening," he urged, feeling that now, more than ever, every word counted. Nobody could have prepared them for what came next. The secrets that had slumbered in her silence were inexplicably entwined with their own choices, and as they held her gaze, they began to comprehend that healing wasn't just about mending. Sometimes it was about unveiling truths they had all been running from. With anticipation hanging heavy, Ethan's heart raced. What was she about to unveil? Would this moment patch up their broken ties or unravel them even further? The air crackled with tension, a silence so thick it felt like a living thing in the room. Ethan swallowed hard, the stillness wrapping around them like a blanket, snuffing out the fleeting moments of joy. He could see the flicker of uncertainty in his mother's eyes, a storm of stories she was wrestling to bring to the surface. Ethan, there's something you need to know, she began, her voice trembling a little. It's about the last year. The pills, they helped me escape. Jake stepped forward, his brow furrowing. Escape? Mom, you were just trying to take care of yourself. No, she whispered, shaking her head, her hands fidgeting on the sheets. I was running from the truth and from you all. Her gaze dropped to the floor, the weight of her admission pulling her down like a stone. Emily leaned in, feeling heat radiating from the situation. What truth? She urged gently, sensing the gravity of the moment. You can tell us. Mrs. Jacobs looked at them, eyes flooded with regret. I was sick for a long time before I finally got help. I didn't want you to see me like that. I thought if I stayed away that you would be better off. I thought I was protecting you. Ethan's heart raced, each beat echoing the tension building in the room. But we needed you, Mom. We still need you. His voice cracked with desperation. I know, she cried. And that's the hardest part. I thought by leaving, I'd keep you from watching me fade away. I didn't realize. Her voice fell to a whisper. I didn't realize how much it would hurt you. Jake took a step closer, though he was still shaken. You weren't protecting us. You were hurting yourself. We suffered too. We didn't know why you had gone. But there was a hole in our lives without you. Emily's heart tightened in her chest. She felt a surge of affection for both Mrs. Jacobs and Ethan. They were both so fragile, battling battles hidden from one another. The room was pregnant with emotion as Mrs. Jacobs continued. I kept a journal, a record of everything, my thoughts, my fears. I thought it would help me make sense of it all. Maybe one day, I could share it with you. But her voice trailed off, guilt and sorrow intertwining in her expression. Mom, please, Ethan pleaded, fear creeping in. Don't close yourself off again. We can handle it. Just don't leave us again. Not now. Mrs. Jacobs blinked back tears, shaking her head. It's not just about me anymore. There's so much I've held back from all of you. Secrets and regrets. Jake took a deep breath, his voice firm. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. You taught us how to be a family. We can handle the truth. The weight of those words hung in the air, a fragile acceptance of the unknown, but also a reminder that vulnerability was the foundation of love. Promise me, Mrs. Jacobs said, grasping Ethan's hand tightly. Promise me that no matter what comes out, our family stays together. Ethan nodded, tears welling in his eyes. Promise, Mom. We'll face this together. I want us to heal. For the first time in what felt like ages, Mrs. Jacobs smiled a little, though it was laced with pain. Then I'll tell you about it. I'll open up, just know it's gonna hurt. As she began to speak, a shadow fell over the door, and a figure stood there, watching. The heavy heartbeat of anticipation flowed through the room again. What would they discover next? Would the revelations bring them closer together? Or would they open old wounds that were better left untouched? The tension hung heavy in the air as Mrs. Jacobs prepared to unravel the years of silence, her voice a fragile thread woven with pain. Ethan leaned in, his heart racing, the walls closing around him. This was it, the moment of truth that could reshape everything. I thought I was protecting you, Mrs. Jacobs began, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But running away only let the shadows take over. I've been struggling with my mental health, and the shame of it all kept me silent. I thought you'd be better off without me. Ethan's heart ached at her words. We felt your absence, Mom. We never stopped loving you, even when you weren't there. Jake and Emily stood at the periphery, the bond between mother and son illuminating the dim room. Yet they faced the quiet storm swirling beneath the surface. They were witnesses to a family beginning to undress the wounds that had festered in the darkness for too long. I needed help and I didn't know how to ask for it. But I've carried so much regret. And in my silence, I pushed you all away, Mrs. Jacobs continued, her voice shaky but growing stronger with each revelation. I wanted to shield you from my pain, but I realize now that love isn't just about protection. It's about sharing it, all the good and the bad. Tears streamed down Ethan's face, and with vulnerability pouring from every pore, he whispered, "We would have been there for you, Mom. We can be there for you now." Emily stepped forward, a surge of emotion propelling her. None of us are perfect. We all have our battles. But standing apart only leaves us broken. Jake nodded, feeling the weight of that truth. You are not alone, Mrs. Jacobs. We all want you to heal, but it starts with honesty. Those words seemed to puncture the dam holding back the years of sorrow, and Mrs. Jacobs nodded, feeling the warmth of their support. I wanted to admit that I should have reached out, and that I still need help. It's a cycle, running away and pushing people away. But today I want to start healing together. The simple yet powerful statement poured into the room, igniting something in each of them. They weren't just healing Mrs. Jacobs. They were forging connections among themselves, old wounds transformed into bridges, leading to understanding and acceptance. I've written down everything in my journal. It may hurt to go through it, but it might help explain the depths of my silence. Ethan's chest tightened. You don't have to go through it alone. Let us be there for you. He could feel Emily's hand squeezing his, offering an anchor amidst the storm. We can read it together. We're stronger as a family, she said softly. With a shaky breath, Mrs. Jacobs nodded, her heart swelling with hope. I'd like that very much. The moment felt monumental. The words they exchanged wove an unbreakable thread connecting them, binding them as a family not just by blood, but by the weight of shared experiences. Each of them, wrapped in their own struggles, began to see that isolation was a thief of joy. As they settled in, each one of them embracing their own part in this tapestry, the hospital room felt less sterile. It glimmered with potential and connection. Life outside seemed vibrant again, full of promise, laughter, and a future that sparkled anew. Together, they dared to address the shadows of their past, but unlike before, they were no longer running from them. They moved toward the light of understanding that illuminated their path forward. Jake looked at Emily, their eyes locking, a recognition dancing between them. In that moment, he understood that his fight for love was as vital as any he had fought for success in business. Yes, there would always be challenges, heartbreak, and moments of confusion, but faced together, they could rise above it all. Let us paint a new picture, he murmured, settling back into the moment. One where we can always have each other's backs. Emily smiled, her heart lifted. One where love is louder than the silence. As the walls of the hospital rang with renewed hope from laughter echoing through the corridors, it marked a chapter, unbound from the sorrow of the past. They had turned a pivotal corner, laying the foundation for healing which spread beyond confines, rippling into the community they cherished as they shared their stories. The promise of tomorrow glimmered bright. They each understood that life would always bring its storms and uncertainties. But together, armed with newfound hope and unwavering love, they were ready to face the unknown, a family united in their beautifully imperfect reality. And as they stood together, no longer mere shadows of their former selves, they were light ready to inspire a world beyond the diner's doors. The rich, vibrant colors surrounding them symbolized not just restoration, but a legacy of love worth fighting for. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss these transformative stories and the journey that leads us through life's biggest moments. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and show your support for more heartfelt content. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this ending. I want to hear your voices and your own stories. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of love and transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how important it is to support this channel.